Good evening, everybody. I knew you were coming. That time I was watching. Sometimes I'm not, but I'm watching, but I'm not watching the screen. There we go. Good evening. I'm your host, Len Dorman of the Southern Fried Paranormal Podcast here on All Access Network TV. And usually I say something stupid about this time, but tonight I saw where my friend Dave Scott, who is about one of the king of paranormal podcasters, is having problems with people putting political posts on his Facebook page. Good grief, people, he's Canadian. He doesn't care. He's not a Democrat. He's not a Republican. He doesn't care what you have to say about whatever political party you're pulling for. He doesn't care. His viewers don't care. The readers of his Facebook page don't care. So keep your opinions to yourself, please. Good grief, no matter what they are. Dave Scott's a nice guy. He's one that he didn't get me started in podcasting, but he's one that inspired me to do this. I figured, well, if he can do it, anybody can do it. Of course, don't tell him I said that. Dave Scott's a great guy, and don't torture him with political stuff. Good grief! Even I don't discuss politics even in the parking lot of the Piggly Wiggly here locally. Never see a political sign on my car. You won't see a political sign on my pages, Facebook page or any other page. You're not going to see one in front of my house because I was brought up, keep your politics to yourself. And don't go around waving flags. That's abnormal. That's weird. Normal is maybe a week before the election putting a sign in front of your house. That's about as far as anybody should go. And Christy Richo she hates politics. There's a lot of people who hate politics and will hate you when you get involved in it. And that's saying something as the son of a politician. And I was elected to offices in the JCs, which is about a forbidden thing here. I used to run more JC chapters. I had about 13 or 14 chapters in my district in Georgia in the early 80s. And Georgia now has only 12 chapters in the entire state. So that's how far they've fallen down, which is a big problem. One thing I will say politically, people don't know their civics. People want to hug the Constitution, put a copy on their chest and walk around and never read it. If you want to know how I'm politically, I'm a constitutionalist. If it's in the Constitution, that's the law. And the law should apply to 100% of the people here in the United States, citizens or non. That's the way it was written. That's the law. If you don't like it, change it. But have a rich friend, because you've got to get that through 3/4 of both houses of Congress, and they can agree on the time of day. You got to get the president to sign it. Then you got to get it passed through the legislators, again, with 2/3 of the state legislatures, and they can't agree on the time of day. You got to have 2/3 of the governors sign off on it to even file a change for an amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So have fun. It will be, if you're 12 years old, you might get it passed by the time you die of 90. And you're going to spend probably $1 billion or so in doing so, because you got to convince a lot of people to vote for it. So good luck with that. But that's the way it is now. The Constitution is covering everybody in this country, citizen or no. And that's the way it's written. And that's as far as I go politically. And that's as much as I'll discuss. Meantime, we have, if we didn't have humans, we'd be bored. Thrive on, if we couldn't talk bad about somebody, and, we wouldn't have any reason to exist, because God gave us 2 ears and a mouth, and we don't use the 2 ears very often, but we use that mouth constantly. Anyway, we're going to get on started with the show. First, I would like to mention, since I am being held that it's my fault, about the New Orleans Paranormal Society. I'm going to throw up the first picture with a lady. There we have it. Voices from Beyond. That's their, I believe that's has to do with their philosophy and their own podcast. And flip up the other one up here. Here is their name. Here's an address, phone number. They do ghost tours where they don't put you in front of the house and say, this house is haunted, and you walk to the next house. They don't walk you through it and let you look in the window or maybe take you into one room and say, this is haunted. Do you feel anything? Okay, next house. No, they put you in there for a couple of hours and let you investigate. Bring your own stuff or use a piece of their equipment. They will put you in a verified haunted location and will let you ghost hunt in that location. And they will let you stay there a while, sometimes until you're tired of being there. But that's how they run. That's how they roll. And that's why they're doing the New Orleans Paracon, because the same people who own New Orleans Paranormal Society, Chris and Jen, are also doing the New Orleans Paracon. Let's roll the ads and some the one that everybody's. I will warn you, that last little bit of that video says 2 people for $300 is their lowest price package. That would get you a couple of nights in a hotel and some of the perks that's going along with it. But there is a but, capital B-U-T, with the U-N-T capitalized also, because it is now the 19th. I was told, maybe, don't hold me to this, that price will be good until March 1st. So if you want that $300 package, I'd call them up or go to their website, NewOrleansParacon.com, and get that package for $300. Because in about 2.5 weeks, you may very well not be able to get that package. So get it while it's available, because it's a guaranteed good time in NOLA. It's going to be, they're going to put people on tours. For example, at Andrew Jackson Hotel, they'll put you in there and you will do some ghost hunting in what they call the haunted closet, which is actually a storage area below the most haunted room in the Andrew Jackson Hotel, one of the most haunted hotels in New Orleans, or one of the most haunted cities in the U.S. So you're in one of the hottest paranormal spots in the country. They will sit you down by yourself and let you communicate. with spirits that are willing to talk to you. They're Southerners. They're willing to talk. And you will have a near guaranteed paranormal experience. So that's just one of the places they're going to go. Our own Latriana, who's in the chat room, I see, she will be leading a tour. And tell me if I'm wrong about this, Lee. You will be leading a tour to the Voodoo House. I have been there 4 times. I'm not quite the expert Chris is, because he's there 4 or 5 times a week. But I have been there myself 4 times. That puts me in the often visited category to that location. The spirits there are relatively nice. You don't taunt them, but they will communicate with you. They enjoy a little played music, and they enjoy some good conversation. So you can ask them some serious questions, and they will give you answers. However, whatever kind of device you have, mail, your dowsing rods, an echo box like I use, a ghost box, you will get results. Sometimes you won't get results. The last time I was there, a spirit was calling one of the people on the tour a loser. And with every 15, 20 seconds, sometimes 30 seconds, would call one of the people on the tour a loser. I told them that was rude. They shouldn't do that. And they kind of backed off for a few minutes, but then they got back, loser, he's a loser. So you don't know what you're going to get when you're in that place. So Lee, I hope Lee has got her ducks in a row and is ready to ghost hunt in this location, because she's going to have her hands full. And if you get the tour, ask or check to make sure that you get on Lee's tour. And that's just about sold out. Lee, I don't know if Lee's still in here or not, but her tour in the Voodoo House is almost sold out. So I got called. You see, it happens. These are former people, and they will get on to you once in a while. All right, we are going to go to my opening, and there are several shots in there that were taken from inside Andrew Jackson Hotel. All right. Oh, yeah, everybody can sit down. They can stop the applause. They can just sit down. Good grief. I'm not that popular. Okay, Chris, you reach over that. I like the creaky door too. And of course, the closing video is also a creaky door at the end of my closing video, made on Canva. So if I can make a video on Canva, anybody can make a video on Canva. In fact, I think an average 5-year-old could probably make a decent video on Canva. So if you want to learn how to make videos, there are several programs out there you can go to. Canva is one of the easier ones. So you can go there and for free practice making videos, and if you want to get some more nicer graphics, you can go ahead and give them a yearly fee. I think it's $125 or a whole year of using their site, and you can get the better graphics. The graphic for tonight's show was actually made using Canva. The advertisement for the New Orleans Paracon, that video, the entire video was made, including sound, and the ghost pictures was made on Canva using some of their stuff. So yes, the Murder Castle, H.H. Holmes and I have a past that wasn't that nice. Somebody told me I may have changed his ways, but he come at me wanting to do bad things, and I had to reprimand him, to say. Anyway, we're going to get on with the show. And yes, Nancy, Noonan, Kelly, you said bad enough to be called a loser, but by someone has passed, yes. There is a woman there and Lee's going to have to deal with this if she shows up, that sometimes comes in there and does taunt some of the people on tour there. So that may be something Lee has to deal with, and Lee can handle that. But we're going to bring our guest out, tell you a little thing about her. She's a creator and host of PARAFlixx's Into the Obscure social media and engagement lead with Tribe 3's Cryptid Convergence. Also a History Alive cast member. This lady gets around. She is very busy. Kara Phillip.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I am very busy.
Yeah, you look fabulous tonight.
Thank you.
And you and I don't know each other very well, even though we've both been in the paranormal for quite a while.
Yeah.
We've never really talked. So if we go back and forth a little bit, everybody was sorry. We don't. Kara and I really don't know each other.
No.
You saw a little bit what I've been into with the intro. I've been busy in the past. Now I'm enjoying my retirement down in Arkansas. I told you earlier I moved from Chicago, got out of the big city, and moved down here to just outside of a town, 2,200 people.
Oh my goodness.
I am retired and enjoying it. The wife's retired. We live in our retirement cabin in the woods.
Sounds beautiful. I don't know, maybe one day, but I like all my peopling, so I don't know.
And Gwen's always telling me the wife is going to end up killing me one night, but we've been married 25 years almost. And she was born and raised on the south side of Chicago.
Oh, so south suburbs. So for people that actually live here, I'm not claiming Chicago, but for anybody a little far away, then I do. But south suburbs my whole life. I lived in Michigan for a little while, and then I came back here.
Oh, so you're in the south suburbs of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Which you don't want to tell us what town?
I spent a lot of time in Joliet, so I'm pretty far out by now. So once upon a time, it was not even a suburb. Like now it is, right? Like eventually everything becomes a suburb. So
you're not that
one whole city.
You're not that terribly far from Baxter's Grove, then.
No, I was much closer growing up. I grew up in Oak Lawn, and I went to Mother Macaulay, like if that gives people some geography. And that was a lot more, it was a pretty common high school, late night visit. I think the first time I went during the day was, after a few years had already passed. That was really unusual then. I think it's a lot harder to go at night now, that's now that there's a lot more, cameras and eyes all over the place. But in high school, we weren't always there, but you would go at night. So that was one of my, one of the fun things to do.
Now, you weren't one of the ones kicking the headstones over and painting them, were you?
No.
That happened a lot.
They were down. It's so funny. I don't know how recently you've been or pictures you've seen. It's, I say so funny, but it's not. It's actually just wonderful. People have definitely cleaned it up. It gets maintained. I'm going to say back in the day, it was a whole vibe because it wasn't maintained. It wasn't nice. No. So that was kind of, you know, a little extra spooky. It's funny now when you walk in, especially I just go during the day. Like I have no desire to, you know, sneak in the cover of nights and, you know, do any of that. I couldn't even imagine if I had to call somebody because I just got arrested for going to Bachelor's Grove at night. Like, no, thank you. So I think in high school, I don't know that I even thought about that question, but but in high school, we would do it. But now, just during the day, you walk in and you go, oh, just what a nice place. It's like, you know, the lawn is cut, you know, the grass is cut. It's really nice. It's just so different now. You still feel a lot of the same feelings and everything, but I will say there's nothing like back in high school going in at night when, you know, when it was just far more wild and far more interesting.
Yes.
So that was, I will say, like that was a whole, you know, a whole thing before cell phones, before, you know, any of that. So it was just a totally different experience, you know, than now. But
back when the weeds were 6 feet tall.
Yeah. So it's, you know, it's funny because, so back before everybody was talking, you know, I think internet was pretty rudimentary, you know, it was definitely dial up, you know, and we weren't talking about Bachelor's Grove, you know, as far as I know, like in an AOL chat room. But, you know, you just had like a regular camera that you went to get developed. Maybe we had pagers, I think, you know, I think we had pagers, you know, so nothing, we weren't talking to anybody. We weren't filming anything, you know, we weren't that fancy. And I think we were just bringing like, you know, maybe somebody had an actual camera, but it was a lot of like disposable cameras. It was during that era that all the disposable cameras. And so it was just a completely different, you know, just that very different, you know, effect of it. Right. So I always say I think they're like floating around somewhere over here, all in my school stuff. But we refound the pictures, the actual pictures years later. And what I remembered as being just these incredible pictures. I'm like, oh, well, that was probably just some lens flare. You know, like you know, you just thought it was like really impressive. Then, you know, I was like, oh, I probably wouldn't be excited about that. That would just be one of a million pictures. I just don't care because it isn't anything, or just the way you remember the things. I'm like, oh, I don't know if those pictures were as astounding as I thought they were back in the day. That's okay. You know, now I look at it and go, oh, we're so young. Look how cute. You know, like that's all I see when I look at the pictures now, but they're still wonderful to have. But yeah, it's a totally different. I mean, who amongst us has not, if you went in at night, like as a teenager, had to like lay down in those 6 foot weeds because the cops were walking around, you know, like it was a whole thing, a whole vibe. And then you leave through the forest, they don't follow you. It's very different now going during the day.
Yes, it is.
Legally.
Legally. Well, technically, and if I'd gotten caught, I would have faced this in court. Because I hadn't been there in 11 years, almost 11 years. Because I moved down here this fall will be 11 years. So I've been down here about 10 and a half years.
Yeah.
So it's been about that long since I've been there. But with the forest preserve, they're the police that usually come in there and try to catch you because you can't be in the forest preserve. But the cemetery,
I don't know which police it was that long ago.
Forest preserve.
Yeah.
The cemetery is not part of the forest preserve. It's owned by Cook County, but it's a different department. And is a abandoned cemetery, unused cemetery, still under the you can't be there after dusk and before dawn rule. If it's not used and it's not an active cemetery and been closed for a couple of decades, does it fall under a cemetery rule? And if you go into the cemetery, walk through the forest preserve, you can't get to the cemetery without crossing forest preserve. You can't do it.
Correct.
But if you cross over and go into the cemetery before dark and you don't leave until dawn, then you're not actually breaking forest preserve rules because you're not in the forest preserve. And if
would you do that though? I don't think I would.
If they catch you in the cemetery, they've got to call the state troopers because you're in the cemetery after dark, which is technically a state offense because you're breaking a state law. And then you can say, well, Judge, that the cemetery has been abandoned. And at that time, it was about just after I left when the county first started admitting they owned it for years. Since it was willed to the county in 88, 89, when the last owner died, it was in a will for the cemetery to go to the county.
Interesting.
For years, they denied it because they didn't want to have to pay insurance. This is Cook County now. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
They didn't want to pay liability insurance for it. So they just denied it and hoped nobody got hurt. And if somebody got hurt, they would have to do a trace as to who actually owned the place to sue the owners for, their broken leg or whatever.
Interesting. I wouldn't even think to sue somebody if I hurt myself there. That wouldn't even be like a thought.
No, I just go to the hospital. I tripped over something and broke my leg.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even try to explain. I was climbing on top of a headstone and fell off of it.
I don't climb on headstones, so no. But no, okay. So, but would you spend the whole night? And if not, what would be the reasoning?
Well, I kind of cheated on that. Before I left, be 11 years ago, April.
Okay.
In a couple of months. It'd be 11 years ago. Gail dropped me off there. The long path. You got to walk about a quarter of a mile to get to the cemetery. Down the road. Down the old Mytholodian Highway.
Mm-hmm.
And she dropped me off there at the two towers, the twin cell phone towers. She dropped me off there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. She didn't pick me up she went into the parking lot across the street at 8 o'clock next morning. Yes, I spent the night in the cemetery. No transportation home. She was asleep, so I couldn't even call her to come pick me up.
Interesting.
And I had no cell phone. I had nowhere to go, no way to get there, and a whole bag of equipment that if I had to walk in place, I had to carry.
Ooh. I mean, because if there's a path out the woods that you end up at the soccer fields that eventually you get to a gas station, don't worry about how I know. But so there would be recourse, but I bet it closes at some point.
Mm-hmm. And what I did, I took some nylon cord, and there's a path coming from the highway closer to the cemetery, but you got to walk a crooked path and walk across the bridge to get to it. So it's not advisable to take that path.
Yeah.
Some people took it because they had ghost experiences on the trail. So did I. Got a picture of that, by the way. But what I did, I tied some nylon cord between trees on both trails. So if people would hit it, they couldn't see it in the dark.
Make a sound.
You see the flashlight coming. They'd run into the spider web of nylon cord and scream. Of course, they got what I just run into.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was worry about people coming down the path, which I could see their flashlight an eighth of a mile away.
For me, it's the people. I would, it's definitely a very active place. I could, that would, I think if I was by myself overnight, I'd be a little uneasy just because of the activity, just because, just some experiences, but it's the people. That's at the end why I just wouldn't, because that would be too creepy. Well, a cemetery is the safest place on earth, but this is in a forest preserve. It's just out there.
And by the way, Richard Crowe is the one that put Baxter's Grove on the map. He used to investigate it by standing on that bridge on the new Mytholodian Highway.
Yeah.
And take photos of it at night. He's the one that put Baxter's Grove. Yeah, Rich Crowe did tours all over the Chicagoland area for years, and he's the one that put it on the map. And the picture of the White Lady of Baxter's Grove was taken by Dale Kazmarek and Judy Huff. Mm-hmm. Judy Huff snapped the picture, but she was a member of Dale's society, Ghost Research Society.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're both of them are legends, Christy.
Mm-hmm.
And Dale had it's in his contract when you join his group that if you're under his flag with him, any pictures you take, he shares copyright. So theoretically, if you want to use that picture, you got permission from both of them. I had permission from both of them because you saw the picture next to it of the wedding picture with the man and woman. If you look at, the woman has the same dress on.
Oh, I was like trying to look, and I was like, I'm not going to see it fast enough.
That's Judy's bank. Yes. That's the same woman, and that's Amelia Patrick Humphrey.
Oh, how cool.
And the picture next after that in my intro, it says Libby May buried Bachelor's Grove. That's a handwritten note from John Humphrey about his firstborn daughter, who died 11 months and 4 days old. That was, he founded a nearby town, and because he was a state senator, the most powerful man in Cook County outside of the city of Chicago for several decades. And the new town, the cemetery wasn't ready for burial in 1865. It wasn't ready for burial till 1869. His firstborn daughter died in 1865. So they put her in the Patrick, his wife's family's plot in Bachelor's Grove. And when they exhumed half the people that were buried, they exhumed over 200 bodies out of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. They did not exhume the Patricks because there was no living Patricks or Humphreys in the area. So when they announced the cemetery is closing, the owner has died, if you want to come get your relative, you pay for it. Again, Cook County. You hear that a lot from me. I lived there for 14 years. I figured it out. But she is still buried there.
That's not infant daughter, is it?
11 months and 4 days old. That's their firstborn child.
Well, no, like the headstone.
No, that's completely different burial plot.
I was like, I didn't think so, but I was like,
you're talking about the big headstone deep inside over by the pond, and that's the largest. They got several family members still buried there in the largest plot in Bachelor's Grove. The Patricks, when you walk into the gate, you walk. You remember where the fork tree was on your right? Mm-hmm. In front of that fork tree, right by the path, that's where the Patrick plot was. Well, still is.
Well, where she's sitting, like, is that her plot where she's sitting in the picture?
No. In fact, that stone that she was sitting on,
right,
is not in proper place.
Okay.
And it's unknown where the proper place is. There are no records. This has been researched painfully. And you cannot find a picture of where that stone should be. It got pushed up there. Somebody was trying to steal it. Probably got tired of rolling it, I guess.
I'm sure it's very heavy.
Because it's not even near a grave.
Yeah.
Somebody was trying to steal it. And that's as far as they wanted to get with it. And we don't know. Nobody knows where it goes. It could have been gone with somebody who's got exhumed and not really go anywhere unless just another piece of empty ground. But it's unknown where that goes, so they just leave it where it is.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, there's no better place to move it. That would be interesting.
And by the way, that picture was taken in 1992 by very fast, high speed, infrared film, 35 millimeter camera. And that's what Judy Huff was using when she took that picture.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It is legendary around here because we all.
Yeah, y'all.
Very much, all of us, I mean, just even in the Chicago area, like we definitely are very familiar with it.
Yes, I used to hang with legends. I went to one of Richard Crowe's last events, his last John Dillinger event. In fact, I'll tell you where it was, and his last one, that's in July, of course, the shooting of John Dillinger. He died in June. So he was preparing to do his usual annual July event at the alleyway. But he didn't live long enough. He was in the hospital for a while and died. He had a urinary tract infection. And while they were checking out what was wrong with him and his urinary tract, they found cancer, a highly active cancer that ended up killing him. We were in the Civil War Roundtable together. We were in a Westerners group together, and I got to know him sitting at a bar across the street from the theater. And I got 2.5 hours with a legend.
Oh,
By myself. It was fabulous. Dillinger was a con man. He was also a killer and a crook. So he was a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Even the mob didn't like him because he brought too much attention to criminality.
He did bring
the mob makes most of their money on the hush hush.
Yeah.
They don't like to talk about it. They didn't like Capone because he was too popular and too out there.
Yeah.
And they after Capone, they were trying to put everything hush hush. Let's keep this quiet and not talk about it. And Dillinger brought heat down on him. Mm-hmm. And part of him, Pretty Boy Floyd and Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde are why the FBI exists. Mm-hmm. They were created to stop these interstate crimes because they couldn't. If they were chasing, say, Bonnie and Clyde in Arkansas, they crossed down to Louisiana. The Arkansas people couldn't chase them in Louisiana. And when no radios in the cars, they couldn't go radio ahead and call Louisiana and say, Bonnie and Clyde's crossing the border at so-and-so city. So it was a whole different time back in the 20s.
It was. It's so crazy to think, that they just, Bonnie and Clyde is a good example. They just drove around. People knew who they were. This wasn't, they were, just celebrities, like criminal celebrities. Not that we don't, make serial killer celebrities nowadays or whatever. There's actually like less of them now that are, getting that notoriety. But because we just didn't have everything we have now, or the cameras or the FBI, all of that.
Yes.
They just got to kind of do whatever for a while. And that's a wild time. Like, that's so interesting. That just isn't what it is now.
It's totally fascinating. That's why Richard and I sat there for 2.5 hours talking about stuff. Mm-hmm. He was enjoying it because, being a native Georgian, I was discussing the Civil War from a Southerner's point of view.
Interesting.
And I was used to doing that because in college, we were doing, in a speech class, we were doing speeches on various things. And the person in front of me did a speech on how Sherman shortened the Civil War by doing total war and terrorizing civilians in his march to Georgia. Because he wasn't so much fighting an army and trying to destroy a Confederate army. He was going through there because Georgia fed the Confederacy. You take Georgia out of the war, and Sherman did, the army's not going to get fed. Lee's army started going hungry from that point on till they surrendered. And in fact, was one of the major reasons they surrendered, because their food was gone.
Interesting.
Because Sherman burned it. And she was talking about all the good things Sherman did. And at first thing I said, look, as a native Georgian, this is not what I was taught in school about Sherman. He didn't do all this stuff. He sat there and he burned crops, he burned buildings, he terrorized civilians, he stampeded women and raped cattle. And the whole class lost it. I thought we were going to have to get the teacher off the floor because I said that backwards.
I'm sorry.
Stampeded women and raped cattle.
Like, yeah, no, I was going to be like, that seems like.
And actually, that's a joke from
Blazing Saddles. He was doing some work. Like, I was a little confused. I was like, he was really doing something there. But sure, I mean,
cow abuser.
Who am I to say what he did or didn't do? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yep, I studied the Civil War. Christy, it brings up a nice. She says she feels for Bonnie and Clyde. People who've written books on Bonnie and Clyde will tell you real quick, they were a product of their times. They were both brought up in abject poverty.
Yep.
Their families were the old Southern expression, didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Mm-hmm. Literally. Yeah, that was a little sick on my part, but it was it was funny in class. Anyway, they went into crime and started penny ante robbing places. Her first husband, that she never got divorced from, by the way, a little trivia on Bonnie. She when she was shot, she had a wedding ring on. It was her first husband's, and she never divorced him. Of course, that was a product of the time. She never really had the money to divorce him. And back then, women did not divorce the men. And he was in prison. He was in prison, so he couldn't even talk to a lawyer.
Interesting. No, and she crossed a point in her life that she couldn't just say, like, hey, let me go to the courthouse and divorce.
Like, right. You couldn't walk into the courthouse because you'd be arrested on the you wouldn't get out of the courthouse. You'd be arrested, put in the jailhouse down in the basement, and that's all they'd have heard of you.
Yeah.
So that was a little trivia on them. By the way, I went to the Ambush Museum, and the museum, the very first part of the museum is a cafe where Clyde went in while Bonnie sat in the car. She was injured, by the way, battery acid, had burned her leg. He went in there and got some sandwiches and something to drink and took it back out to the car, and then hit a road, made a right-hand turn, made a left-hand turn a few miles, and about 8 miles going that way from the museum is the spot where they got shot.
Oh, wow.
I've actually been there and the stool Clyde sat on when he made the order is still sitting there, and I sat on that stool for about 15 minutes.
Oh, how interesting.
Just to get the feel. And went to the spot and got both of them to say something. Bonnie did not want me there. All I got from her was go away, go away. Clyde said, I did it because I did not want to go back to prison.
I mean, there's a point that you just full send, like you're committed and you're on your path. I wonder, do you think she said go away to you because it's you, or you're a man, or whatever, or is that just for everybody? Like, don't be.
Well, she was nervous because Clyde was a little bit hot tempered and didn't like men talking to her at all.
Okay, so
it could be you have a very legitimate point that I can't even begin to debate. Yeah, it's very, very possible that was the reason. Or she might not like me, or she might not like anybody there. She might not like being
I just wonder if it's like everybody. She's like, no, that's where this happened. Go away. Or if it's just, hey, don't talk to me. He's not going to like it. Like maybe where, and who knows? I can't speak to this. Like, where's her head now? How aware, how self-aware, and I certainly don't know the answer to that for her.
But she's also not happy because she always wanted to be buried next to Clyde. And her mother said, no.
I feel like after all that, you just kind of have to like honor.
The public would like that. And the public liked it back then when they were shot. Just bury them together.
Yeah.
But her mother said, no. Big no. Capital N, capital O. About 10 or 15 explanation points. No. Final answer. And they're buried several miles apart in different cemeteries.
Interesting.
There is still talk, and some of her descendants are in court fighting with the other family members about disinterring her from where she is and burying her next to Clyde. So that's still a court case to this day.
I like that. No, I think that's really interesting. Like, because how long
brings up a good point. That possibility too. Christian says they're angry. Yes, they were. But at a certain point, it was like Clyde told me. He did it because he didn't want to go back to prison. He knew he was going to be shot. He knew it was going to be a bad end, but he couldn't stop because he just was not going to turn himself in and go to prison.
Where is she buried in relation to her husband? Like, I'll say legal husband.
I am not sure where her legal husband's buried because he was in jail all this time.
Interesting.
He was still in jail when she died. because he got arrested just a few months after their marriage.
Interesting. Yeah, I would just wonder. I mean, I don't see her mother being like, "Yeah, you two should be together." Like, I'm not necessarily saying she would do that either. But that's just
the guy was in jail. She didn't want him with him either.
Yeah. Oh, poor mama. Like,
when you start studying all this stuff, it's a lot of fun. And you've done your own study. You got some interesting story about some cases you've been on, don't you?
Now my brain is like, I'm like, no, there's fun stories you're telling. I don't know. I wasn't ready with stories. I will
start with Christy's got an interesting comment right here.
Okay.
And look, they don't like the story because we weren't there. That's what they told me, their words.
Interesting. They feel misunderstood. Maybe like.
The last wish was never granted, so that's why they're upset.
Fair.
They're angry people. And Angie and Shane, but go ahead. What you're doing?
No, so I was gonna say, what's my a story I can think of. So speaking of History Alive, and I like to go backwards in time. What do I most remember? Like a recent story, and people communicating. So we were last summer, we were in Kentucky at a rest home. And, I'm going to say a little bit from my perspective, I'm going to call it I'm kind of like, well, middle of nowhere, but I mean, there were literally people living on the street. Like there were humans around living there, but there weren't food businesses, whatever, weren't close by. So, we kind of all initially, when we talked about going down there, talked about, and we could just stay there at this rest home. There's rooms, there's space, whatever. So I really went all in. I said, I'm going to get a cot and I'm going to sleep there. Turned out it was also super duper hot weekend everywhere, So now it was bad in Chicago. So by the time we drive pretty far south, for a while into Kentucky, it was real hot. Everybody but two of us ended up just going to hotels. But they were so far away and they weren't even nice. They're like, no, they're really gross. I'm like, see, you should have just stayed at the rest home with us. So two of us stayed. It was just real sweaty. And I loved every second just being so immersed. I was like, that's what I would rather do. So it's not, that's why I say when I ask about Bachelor's Grove, it's not that there's spirits there, I don't want to spend the night. It's just literally the humans, right? I can't control for humans in a forest preserve. So, but in this rest home, I probably couldn't control for humans either, but it seemed like it. Thank you. So we're at this rest home. And I've never, so speaking of equipment with an Ovilus, I don't want to say I've never had, good activity, but this is probably the best experience we've had with it. And we've had other stories there, but this is, I think, the coolest story of somebody just wanting to share their story. And speaking of where people are buried. So the Ovilus started saying things, kind of just pointing us in a direction. And it would, even basic stuff, because it's just words. It would be leaves or, different things. And, eventually we kind of would follow and it would answer really intelligently, just kind of back and forth. And we ended up kind of following instructions from the Ovilus and, some other clues. And we ended up in the yard and there were two people buried. Full headstones. It was a little tiny 2-person cemetery. And it was a couple. She actually had worked at this rest home. And the neighbor came from across the street. So he saw us in this baby cemetery, these two people. And it wasn't that long ago. It was, within the last 20, 30 years that they were buried there. And told us the story of them. There was actually until he died first, so it was probably about 30 years ago or so. The cemetery that everybody got buried at, you could not bury anybody that wasn't white. That was still the rule in the cemetery. That was just, and this couple was black. And this guy across the street, this neighbor across the street was actually part of the cemetery board. And everybody loved this woman. Everybody loved this couple. They were a part of the community. And he actually like pioneered getting the rules changed, but it wasn't in time. So he was buried like on this property right there by the rest home because that was the right thing to do then. They couldn't do anything else. And so she ended up getting buried there instead of moving him later. But the obelisk, and just in our investigation, this was even during the daytime because we were there the whole weekend, really walked us through this whole process to get us out there. And then we realized, like as it said, leaves. That's the one thing I can think of right now. The leaves on his headstone. And then there was like some other stuff that were on hers, and, just really all tied it together and, to really get us to hear their story and be able to share their story. And it was just the coolest experience. So thinking of couples, that's probably why I'm thinking too, like with Bonnie and Clyde. But so this couple got to be buried together just by themselves in a tiny little cemetery set aside because of, the rules of the time. But we got to hear the story and we get to share the story. And so that's probably that's what I'm like thinking of the most, that I'm like, these investigations lead you to a place that you learn more. And it's, about just history in general and context and the times. Cause I know for me, maybe it's a little bit of a northerner thing. I was like, that was like 30 years ago and it was still segregated. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, that was a little surprising. That was definitely a lesson to learn for myself.
In my hometown in Georgia, the schools were not, they were segregated, but, completely separated, black and white. They were not integrated until school year 1971.
Oh, wow.
My sophomore year in high school was the first integrated year.
Wow.
I mean, my freshman year, our high school, and show you how big it was, the freshman class was over 900 people.
Oh, wow. That's a good size.
And that's not even counting the sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Yeah, no, that's a good size.
There were 2 black people in the entire school my freshman year.
Wow.
And both of them were freshmen in that freshman class. And of course, the sophomore year was everything starting over because it got changed. It got changed to who's closest to what school, but you got to maintain a 70-30 relationship. That was the percentage of black white in the town. So that's what they went for in the school, 70-30. So they had to set up, okay, we got too many white people in this school, ship them over here. And they crammed 30% blacks in every school. And the 2 black schools in town crammed 70% white people. And that was not done until the start of my sophomore year, fall of 1971.
Wow.
And when I was at elementary school, there were separate water fountains for the janitors.
No.
Yes. And their water fountains were not on a cooler. They were just a water fountain coming straight out of the wall without the cooler part. It was just a water fountain not attached to a cooler. So it was straight tap water out of the wall.
Wow.
Where the whites got the real water cooler where it was, you had, nice 70, 75 degree water coming out.
And because I was like, our tap water is always pretty chilly, but we're a little further north. Like once you get a little further south, it's just warmer.
You get in the middle of Georgia in September, or when school starts ending, toward the end of May, that water coming out of the ground is not that cold because it's been 90 degrees plus for a month. I never even thought of I will say, like, you see pictures, I did not think about the cooler part of that. Like that's, yeah, no, I guess I didn't notice like in the pictures, the lack of, but I've seen that. You're right. That's wow. So yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. Like, so I think these spirits wanted to share their story. Apparently, it was a great love story and they were just wonderful people. And I think they just wanted to share. They were so excited. People were,
wanting to know the story. It's a location that was, kind of newly being investigated. It was, it's not one of the places that a million people have gone and investigated. So they wanted to share their story. But I love that we got to learn so much more, and, kind of put it into that context. And, even them sharing their story and, the neighbor coming across the street and telling more of the story. And then even just this conversation, leading to like these discussions and, all of us learning more and having these conversations. So I think they really wanted that told. And so I loved that, so speaking of couples and, all of that, that's the story that I'm like, this story, because it was so amazing to us. Like just the whole time we're like, this is incredible. This story getting told.
Studying couples is absolutely amazing. The couple I was talking about earlier, John Humphrey and Amelia. Amelia Patrick was her maiden name. His wife Amelia. He was having an affair. He got a secretary when he was elected state senator. Of course, he had his own business to run, household to run, and he had to run. He was trying to run Cook County, basically was. And of course, he had a secretary. He was immediately having an affair with the secretary. It was a loveless marriage to start with. It was arranged by their parents.
Okay.
Two of the richer families in the area at the time. He was having an affair with this secretary for a couple of decades.
Oh.
And when Amelia died in 1881, 6 months after his wife dies, he marries the secretary.
I mean, he waited 6 months at least. I feel like we got to give him some credit after decades of being with her.
In their burial plot, he's in the middle. On one side is his first wife. On the other side of him is the second wife. And on the other side of the two wives are the children that they bore him.
I mean, they spent their lives sharing him, right? So might as well do that now.
That whole thing is not happy. John hates my guts because I got his wife talking. She thinks it's hilarious because I aggravated him. Well, I'm one of the very few investigators who actually got to the Humphrey house, their home that John built. And several of the relics from the family are there.
Oh.
I went into his bedroom, and you've done this. You know what I'm talking about. A trigger object.
Yeah.
Trigger objects, for everybody who doesn't know what that is something related to the person you want to trigger. Whether it's a gun you want to talk about. Some people walk into a prison with a cigarette and use that as a trigger object. I was in his house, in his bedroom, and his hat. John was only about 5'4", 5'5", vertically challenged. I'm 5'9". I'm a little bit over 5'9.5", close to 5'10". And I go into his room. He wore this top hat, and it was not a silk hat that England tried to make after they started running low on beaver pelts. It's an original beaver pelt top hat.
Wow.
So what I do is sitting there on his bed. I pick up, and this is not a replica. This is not somebody else's hat come from another attic that is put there. He wore a hat like this. Dude, this was his hat. I put it on my head and wore it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours during the investigation.
Oh, wow.
Oh, what he was way mad. He appeared partially in front of me, tried to intimidate me, kept walking towards me and backing off. And finally he just walked past me and just faded away. Oh, guess what shirt my wife is wearing? She just got out of the shower. She put on her Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum shirt. What if you're going to dance in front of me? Take the shirt off. She just gave me an ugly look. But she, without really hearing our conversation, she went and got the souvenir Bonnie and Clyde T-shirt.
How
she got a triple X. So she wears it as a just a house shirt.
Ah,
Well,
love
we've been married 25 years, so we go back and forth.
it.
But I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh, the hat. She
These
got mad
they
about
had it was
that.
like couples, but yeah, the hat.
Amelia just thought it was hilarious, and that's when she first started talking to me, and that's where Libby May started play. I had a special K2 meter with a temperature probe on top of it, and Libby May got to where she'd play with it and try
Ooh.
to play a tune on that thing. And I talked to one of the creator of it, and I stuck it in the refrigerator and pulled it out, and I got a tone, but it was high pitched and not very loud. The only way you can make it really sound off loud is to put your fingers on the probe and hold it with your fingertips. And that's what she was doing. She was raising and lowering the temperature of the probe and playing a tune.
I love that.
And that's how I got Libby May talking to me. And yes, a 11-month, 40-year-old child that died could, after 100 years, learn how to talk. About 150 years, actually. She died in 1865. Yes, and she finally managed to actually move. She followed me home once and figured out how she could actually move out of the grave, because her mother showed up every night right at dusk to come pick her up and take her out, so she wouldn't be subjected to what you're talking about at night there.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah. She would actually open a portal from where she was, the other cemetery, about 2.5, 3 miles away.
Oh,
And a portal away to that cemetery, pick up her child and fade away.
oh, that's adorable.
That's why Ghost Adventures didn't want to use that story. They investigated the place. They were given my phone number, said he's got the latest information. He's done some incredible stuff here. You might want to hear his story. But they got a little bit of the storyline that it was, in fact, not horrible. It was not demonic. It was simply a love of a mother for her firstborn child. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And Ghost Adventure said, no, we're not going to use that.
It's not on brand. It's not quite.
It's not their brand.
Yeah, it just isn't. That's, yeah. I wouldn't expect them to use that. And that's what that is.
Yes. Nowhere near what they like to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, and I'm not even saying, I'm not even going to say anything negative, for my time at the prison, Joliet Correctional Center. They had very different experiences on their visit than we always did. So yeah, it's a very different, whether it's what they attract or how the narrative is going to go, but very different experiences.
Yeah, their experience at Bachelor's Grove was chasing a light through the woods.
Did you ever see I used to see the lights.
This was what they had was they were chasing a major light you could see on camera through the woods. Bachelor's Grove at night, you see flashes of light in the darkness. You can't use a flashlight. You crank up a flashlight in there and ruin your night vision. You're not going to see anything at night.
I don't even think we would bring flashlights. I don't even remember that we had them, because now people are going to see you, right? So I don't even think, and they weren't cute little LED super bright flashlights then. If it was going to be a flashlight, it was going to be gigantic. So I just think we didn't bring them.
I had a powerful UV flashlight, small one, where I could shine it on the ground and see, and from a distance you couldn't tell what a little bit of purple light on the ground was.
Oh yeah, I mean, that would have been smart. We didn't do that. I do have actually a really big one and a smaller one, the UV lights, and those are fantastic. Or even the red lights, so you can just see. But no, I definitely saw plenty of the points of lights, and in the distance and everything. I would see that pretty regularly. but I don't think it would be something that you could follow on camera.
No,
It's like,
it's hard to make UV unless you have a very bright light. It's hard to see UV on camera.
yeah.
Especially with the night vision where it's all green anyway. The purple does nothing in the green night vision.
Yeah.
So you gotta have it set on regular camera. And if you've got the whole area bathed in IR light and your camera picks up IR, which the full spectrum camera is not truly full spectrum. It only you got to put a UV and an IR lens blocker in your camera to take a normal picture. And the way to make what they call a full spectrum camera for paranormal use, you take the IR filter out and you take the UV filter out. So it picks up UV and IR light. So it's not full spectrum, you'd be seeing X-rays.
Yeah.
But the IR picking up all the IR light is, even if you just got a little bit of light in the background, or it's going to overshadow your UV.
Yeah.
So you basically got to go with a no light in complete darkness, and then you can see the little bit of purple light. And you're not going to pick up anything with it, unless a spirit that reflects UV light happens to cross your path. You should have had one at the hotel you were talking about earlier. Where you said you had to drive away from the investigation, and you said it wasn't that great of a hotel.
So yeah, we didn't know. I didn't stay at the hotel. No.
Okay, but the ones that did,
I bet. I bet they probably should have. But yeah, no, I stayed on my cot the whole time, and I stayed in the kitchen though, because that's where the air conditioner was. And I mean, kitchen in quotes. And there was a room air conditioner, and it was like just in the window. I mean, it was hotter than hot there. Like it was, but no, I stayed the whole time, a little buggy, but no, I did not go to the hotel. It was like, there is no incentive for me to like go to a gross hotel over this place, and it was just so cool to stay there. And I got to like be there in the morning, and even in the morning when everybody was meant to go, kind of clean up, take showers, I was like, no, I'll just keep being gross here. It's fine. And just like being alone in the space, that was really, it was a fantastic experience. I was like, that's the rule from now on. I just stay immersed and I don't leave. Like, that's all I want to do. So that was a cool experience for me, because it wasn't, because, like if you go, even say you're at a place for a weekend, you have a place for a weekend. If you leave and go to a hotel every night and you come back, and it's not, you just don't have the same experience, and you're just kind of waiting. Eventually you're tired and it's late, and you're like, when do I get to just go back to the hotel? And then you got to wind down, and it's not the same experience. It's just like, I'm going to sleep here.
Wait, places like Rose Hotel in Atlanta, Indiana, cater to people like that.
Yeah, so that's like, a friend of mine and I, Amelia Cotter, we keep saying one of these nights we just have to go stay at the Congress Hotel, just for a night. But time, like, we're both very busy and time really flies. So as much as we have these like great plans, like, yep, in the winter we're going to do that. That's so easy to say in the summer. Like, yep, we're going to do that. The winter's almost over. It's already 60 degrees, this week. It'll get cold again. The winter's done, and we don't have a spare second, for the rest of winter. So one of these days, like, we're actually going to like do that really immersing and really, we have so many cool places here. Or even we say we're going to stay on Navy Pier at the hotel, because people say there's mermaids at Navy Pier. And you could hear them, and we're like, okay, let's go.
I never heard those, and I was there.
Never heard that
several times. I never heard those.
So did you hear of those, or just, okay. I was like, hold it. I don't think I have a lot of confidence in this. I don't think I do, but I know it's a pier, right? So I get it.
Well, that's why it's called Navy Pier.
Yeah.
It's an
So
old Navy pier.
one day we were like at the end and we were walking back. So in my mind, I don't know what the construction is like underneath it. I don't know how they built it. I don't know. I don't know how much space there is for the mermaids to live, is maybe what I'm trying to get at. But one day we were walking back from the end, coming back on towards land. And I saw just on one of the little, like, kind of where the the boats dock.
The cruise ships.
I saw, and there was actually like an area that you can like see underneath all the wood and everything. And I was like, oh, so it's not totally solid because, from when you're on it, you can't see underneath and how it's built.
Right.
And if you're not on it, you're kind of just far enough away that you don't have a good angle and you're not seeing. So then I was like, oh, maybe the mermaids could live there, because I was like, where are they going to live? Where are they at?
It's on concrete pilings.
So yeah, I guess
there is space under there.
But also, I didn't know there were supposed to be mermaids like in Lake Michigan until I heard about them like under Navy Pier. So I'm very intrigued by this mermaid thing for Navy Pier because I think that's so not what I ever would have expected. And, I'm like, no, they live in the ocean, not in the lake. And so, but now, we can hear them too. So one day we'll actually just stay on Navy Pier and run around and see if we could hear them.
Of course, you just stay in downtown Chicago and investigate where the Eastland went down.
So there's always that. Like, so there's so many. Yeah, there's so many places. There's so many. And we just keep saying, like, we'll sit there hanging out for the summer just in the city for the morning, like for a brunch or whatever. And we're like, let's do all these things. And life is life. And then you just don't do all the things. There's always all these other things to do.
Yes.
So, yeah, no, there is so many cool things.
I've heard screams at the location. And then at the 100th anniversary, I was still in Chicago at the time. We went to where they've got the majority of the victims buried, including several crew members and a lot of most of the prominent people who were killed there. And they were kind of talkative.
Interesting.
We actually asked them several current questions that they would have to have that happened after they died and got correct answers.
Interesting.
So it was somebody, it was a spirit that was intelligent that was answering us. We did, I use Echo Box a lot, and we had about 2 hours, maybe not quite, maybe an hour 45 Echo Box session. Because they have a memorial in that cemetery, and we were sitting on the memorial talking to spirits that died on the Eastland.
Wow.
So that was an incredible experience.
I couldn't even, yeah, that would be. Yeah, no, and again, like so much, like in the Chicago area, it's funny. Like I love New Orleans. So as you're, talking about the Paracon, in New Orleans, I'm like, oh, I wish I lived closer to New Orleans. You live closer to New Orleans, and you get a little,
I'm 6.5 hours away from Bourbon Street.
It's so nice. That's beautiful because we're further, obviously.
Yes.
And, but then I go, well, Chicago's so cool. I mean, it's so cool anyway. I do love it, but all of just period, but all of the paranormal, you're like, there's this. I'm like, I know, you just get, when it's where you live, it doesn't seem as, I don't want to say as exciting because it is, but it's just when it's as part of your daily life, it's so hard to go do that thing. It's not a vacation. It's
right.
Going and doing that thing. Like even I finally, for the first time last fall, made it up to Graceland Cemetery. And I don't know how I took this long to make it there, it's just on the north side. So it's just on the north side. And I finally went and I was like, it's not that far. It's not that bad, but it was still a whole day off of work. It was, and so it's just so funny how like when it's not a vacation, when you have to fit it in, it's kind of tough.
Yes.
Like, so yeah, it's just, I get so spoiled, like being close to so many cool things and so many
Well,
haunted.
you've got one of the largest mass graves in North America. Oakwood Cemetery.
Oh, in
Southside Chicago.
okay.
Anybody who was anybody from the South Side of Chicago was buried in Oakwood Cemetery,
Okay.
including the Confederate soldiers. The between 4,000 and 6,000 Confederate soldiers who died in Camp Douglas are buried there in a mass grave.
So where's it at? We have an Oakwood in Joliet. Like that's where I'm like.
This is Oakwoods plural cemetery. That's just south of the University of Chicago.
Okay, that makes because I was like, I'm stuck on like the one that's like right here, and I'm going.
They were originally buried in Chicago Cemetery.
Okay.
Do you know where Chicago Cemetery was?
Lincoln Park.
They were originally buried there, exhumed in 68, 69.
Mm-hmm.
They were taken straight down the road, past where Camp Douglas was, where they died, and south of the now University of Chicago. And they buried them in a circle, just from shoulder to shoulder in a circle. And they ran out of space in the circle, covered them up, dug another trench, bigger circle, filled that up, dug a third trench and another circle, and put the rest of them in the larger circle. So you got between 4,000 and 6,000 people buried on a mound. They put a Civil War memorial on top of it. Now, Christy, this was Civil War prison camp. All these people died in 4 years of a prison camp.
Okay, so they buried them first in Lincoln Park and exhumed them. When we say like they lined them up, like so no coffins, just some
shoulder to shoulder,
gross bones.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, how deep? Like, in what stage? Like, if they're digging them up to like,
well, they've been dead about 3 years.
So just enough to be super gross.
Yes.
Okay. That just seems like extra horrible. You know, I'm just like,
yes. Prisoners of war, Christy has it exactly right. Yes, ma'am. POWs. They were held in a prison camp in Camp Douglas, so named after Stephen Douglas. He's the one who debated Lincoln. You're a history nut, Kara.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's
the Lincoln Douglas debates.
Yeah.
When they were both running for president. Stephen Douglas, of course, from Chicago. His mansion was there. Later, the mansion kind of fell down, disrepair. You know how it goes with families. But he was buried there on their property. There is a Stephen Douglas Park. And they will open his tomb. You can walk into the Stephen Douglas tomb.
Yeah.
You put your hand on his sarcophagus. Now it's only about 5.5 feet long because he was a very short man.
All these short guys.
He was only about 5 feet tall. Which made the debates real interesting when you had the over 6 foot Lincoln debating this 5 foot tall Stephen Douglas.
No, that's crazy. We have
they actually opened the tomb up. That's what got me.
No, that's really cool.
When you can walk into this tomb and put your hand on the sarcophagus, it's open in daytime during the summer. I think they close at 4:00 in the afternoon. Very inconvenient if you're working, like you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, then you have to take the day off, which is, I mean, that's fine. That's what PTO is for, but then you say, and by the weekend, you're not driving into the city. Everybody else is, right? So
especially in that part of town. That's right off Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Yeah.
That's not the best part of town. You got to go to actual University of Chicago campus to feel any kind of security at all. Mm-hmm. That's not a good place. Camp Douglas it was called that because he donated 80 acres of his personal property for a boot camp for people being drafted out of Chicago for
Oh,
the Civil War. It was a boot camp. And then when they started taking prisoners, they hadn't really set up any prison camps at all. You know, the Army sometimes is.
yeah.
I mean, as late as Vietnam, they didn't have a system where people were getting killed. If you watched We Were Soldiers and Young with Mel Gibson movie
Just
based on
didn't
the
figure
book
it
of
out
the
by
same
then
name,
either.
the only way they would notify the wife or the family of a soldier that got killed, even an officer, he was a lieutenant colonel, was to send a telegram. And they would have the telegram delivered by a cab driver.
Oh,
Who would take it to the family's house and hand them the telegram, and that's how they got to know. And the cab driver say, see you later, or you had a whole handful of letters to give to other people, especially after the first major battle that Mel Gibson was a big part of Mel Gibson's character.
huh.
So they were definitely unprepared in the Civil War. They had nowhere for prison camps.
Things were horrible once. I mean,
yes,
one could argue they are, but a different kind of horrible. But
and
wow.
By the way, that movie was based in Fort Benning, Georgia, and I experienced that as a child. I was 12 when that battle happened. But I was watching all this because I'm from Columbus, Georgia, which is this close to Fort Benning, Georgia. That way. Fort Benning and Columbus have a common border. It's just a line in the road. Oh, okay, you're in Fort Benning now. And I went to college at Fort Benning. I worked at Fort Benning for quite a while. So it was, but I lived through those notices taken by cab drivers, and the cab drivers were across the street from my father's business. And I met some of those guys and said, "Oh, that's the creepiest damn thing they'd ever done in their lives."
Yeah.
Is take your one out there. Finally, during that battle, they were having all these notices being sent out. Mel Gibson's wife, the commander of the unit in the battle, she told the cabbie, bring these notices to me, because he said he hated his job. Told her flat out, and that's what they told me. And she took over. He'd bring her the handful, something, and he got to be armful of notices, and she would pass them out herself.
Oh, because it's the right thing to do.
So I've been around creep all my life.
Yeah, no, that's really no, good for her for like making that better choice. I love that. And just
watch a movie sometime. Well, we Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. It was movie was they actually had the guy who wrote the book as an advisor, and the guy who actually was the lieutenant colonel in charge was an advisor to Mel Gibson. So say what you want about Mel Gibson. He's a good actor, and he had the guy who was actually there telling him what.
Yeah, no, that's so important. I love that. I love that.
And I think you looked at Rex. I guess she's talking about Mel Gibson for that movie. He lost weight for that movie because when you have a lieutenant colonel during a war, and this is the Vietnam War, the shooting war, you had him out there running on a daily basis with his men, training them, and going through the physical training himself, because he always said he was the first off the helicopter onto the field and will be the last to step off the field.
Oh wow.
So you can't have a bunch of weight on you like I do and do that kind of thing.
You can't even eat enough to gain weight, and I'm sure they did not have a ton of food.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure it was not anything like that.
Right. So I've been through a lot of creep in my life. Oh, that whole story is creepy. You got any creepy stories you got? Will you run into some creepy stuff? You've been around a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like real life creepy, or I don't. Oh man, see, I'm like, I just sent in the channel, like, I gotta start going to sleep soon. So I'm like getting tired and I can't like think of things. I had, okay, so it like, I mean, it's creepy, but it's not like deep, maybe going back to the prison, because I always think like, ooh, going back to our time in the prison, we all had like, I don't have a good enough story, like my movie story. If we're all talking about like a movie story, I got to see John Travolta filming Michael, but that's not creepy. That was just really cool. No, we all had our, eventually we all had our doppelgangers, and they were never, only one of us in our group had a doppelganger that was voice and sound, but not at the same time. Everybody else, or not voice and sound, voice and like, apparition, like seeing them. So the rest of us just had one or the other. So, but it would mimic like what we would do or like what we would say. So that was like our creepy thing. And we would make kind of decisions based on like what we heard or saw, that we'd walk further in the building or do whatever. And we always think like, that's so creepy. Like, what did they want us to do as it was leading us into the building? We won't know. I don't know if we'll get back, but so my doppelganger, I don't know if it's embarrassing. My doppelganger never tried to lead anybody anywhere or draw somebody further in the building. It was just leaning on a wall, looking at the cell phone. And I was like, guys, that's it. That's all she was doing. But that's more of a funny story because it's like the rest, everybody else is like trying to say like, come on, come this way or come down here, or I need help, or, kind of standing somewhere to make you think you should go somewhere. Mine was just leaning on a wall, looking at her cell phone. So,
maybe she just needed to scroll Facebook or something.
that's what they thought of me. Those ghosts at the prison. That's
which
how
is
they
scary.
saw me.
Oh, Christy brought up, she said, I believe it was an inside job when Lincoln died. Actually, as far as my research goes, he was the man who shot him was a Confederate sympathizer. He was all for the Southern cause, the so-called lost cause. And this was planned long before the war ended. And he just carried out his mission, regardless of Lee surrendering or not. This was set up to do it on our community. It was planned for months.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have a link to him because he was an actor, which is why they had him do this, because he could actually walk into the Ford Theater and people say, oh, hi, and say, well, maybe you're not in this play, but you're an actor. You're here. You're just enjoying the show, and wouldn't ask him questions about being in the theater, which is why the Confederacy had him do this. But a couple of years before he shot Lincoln, he was in a play in Columbus, Georgia, my hometown.
Ooh.
And at the Springer Opera House, which is still standing, been completely restored. And after the 96 Olympics, a few months after it was over, the Summer Olympics, which was in Atlanta, if you remember, Columbus had the softball games. They did that because I made a speech to the city council right after Atlanta got the win. I wrote a speech real quick. I said, if Atlanta gets it, I don't make a speech. So I wrote out the speech real quick. And the next council meeting, I said it to the council. And I said, I kind of quoted Martin Luther King Jr. I said, I have a dream of Columbus, Georgia, having this, having that, having this, having that. And the mayor looked at me like I was a nut job. And he said, how will we pay for this? I said, put it up for a vote. 1 cent sales tax increase. If Columbus votes it down, I can live with that. If they voted yes, we can have all this stuff. Just sell it to them. Just tell them what we're going to build. We're going to build a new police department. We're going to build a new offices for our fire department. We're going to build another police station. build another fire station. We're going to sit there and have world-class softball fields. We're going to improve our minor league baseball park. We're going to put $1 million in our football stadium where the high schools play. So we're going to make this that in that improvement and move the city-owned golf course, which is where they put the softball fields. And I told them to put it there. It's 9-hole city-owned golf course. I told them where to put it, which was out by where I lived, which was a landfill. And you don't want to build two things on a landfill: a golf course and a city park. That's all you can build in Georgia. It's all you can legally put there. So they moved the city-owned golf course on top of that landfill, brought the river walk. We were able to finish the river walk and brought it out. And the guy wrote a play based on my speech.
Oh, wow.
And called me the dreamer. So the whole play was based on the speech and the things I'd said and how I said, let's do this, let's do that. Told him how to do it and how to pay for it and where to put everything. So he did a one-man play based on that. So they had a play based on my few months of life during that period at the Springer, where the man who killed Lincoln acted about 2.5 years before he shot Lincoln.
Wow.
Gives me a link to Lincoln.
That's
so
really
Guida
cool.
said we've been 90 minutes talking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm very tired.
You know what my secret is? I sleep till lunchtime, then I take an energy drink.
I wake up at 4:45 every morning and then go to work.
I went to bed this morning at 4:00.
Yeah, no, I wake up very soon from now.
What do you do?
I am a nurse, but I went administration. So
okay.
Which
hospital?
Not a hospital.
Oh.
I left hospitals altogether. It's a jail.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a fun time. I enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you go through a few locked doors every morning, don't you?
Not too many to get to where I have to get, but yeah, if I start going further in, yes, that's, then we go through the airlocks. I mean, airlocks, literal airlock, but yeah, that's definitely.
You don't carry a gun or a knife to work.
What was that?
I said, you don't carry a gun or a knife to work.
No, I cannot.
No,
the COs don't have them either on the other side.
Gwen's trying to get us out of here. Where can people find you?
People can find me just at, I want to say just at Facebook, so that's not the only place, but Facebook is PARAFlixx, Instagram and TikTok, PARAFlixx Official. And sooner rather than later, we will be at Days of the Dead in Chicago. So at the Marriott, O'Hare Marriott. So follow Days of the Dead. Days of the Dead Chicago this March is the 6th, 7th, and 8th. So coming up really soon for Cryptid Convergence. So follow us at Cryptid Convergence. And I'll be sharing posts from Cryptid Convergence also. So you can find it there. And we're there every March and November. So I'm excited for us to be there in March. So we get to kind of, be there with everybody else. It's we're used to Paracons that have a lot of people that we know all the time. But in this case, we are kind of the group of the paranormal. So that makes it really interesting. There's kind of a core group of us, sometimes new guests and everything, but we get to be bringing the paranormal to a bigger audience. So that's really interesting because when you go to a regular Paracon, everybody knows who everybody is and what you're going to expect, but it's different, at these. So these are, one of my favorite events of the year, going to the Days of the Dead Cryptid Convergence events.
Well, if you run into Nick Millay, tell him I said hello.
Okay.
You know him?
Will I be running into him?
Do you even know him? Nick Millay he's a ghost hunter based out of Chicago.
Oh, Mulae?
Yes.
Oh yeah, he'll be there probably. Yeah, no, I do know
Yes,
who he is because I was like,
yes.
do I pronounce it that way? I don't know how he pronounces it, so I
No,
don't know.
Millay, Nick Millay.
Yeah,
His
I
dad's
never.
Paul.
Yeah,
Paul's his father. An attorney, actually retired now in Chicago.
yeah, no, he's wonderful. Yeah, I see him
Yes,
at most
yes.
of the events that we're all at.
And if you see Amelia Cotter, tell her I said hello.
I mean, that's the Amelia I'm talking about. Yeah, that we.
Mm-hmm.
I will see Amelia. Yeah.
She's a sweetheart, and at one point I was her favorite photographer.
All right.
So I hung around for several years with
When I text her in
Amelia.
the morning, no, we call it our podcast. We leave each other like long messages because we have different, actually not that different schedules. We both wake up early. We both go to, like it's very similar, like awake and sleeping times, but our commutes are different. Everything is different. And so we just leave each other voice messages back and forth. My husband will be like, why don't you talk on the phone? I'm like, because that's hard. Our schedules are so different. So like when, and sometimes we're really busy, and sometimes, like, so we could just kind of like leave our thoughts and our, everything. And sometimes they're really long. Like we leave whole podcasts like for each other. Then we just get to listen to each other talk. So yeah,
Yes.
this is normal stuff.
You can do that with Amelia.
Yeah.
She is one of my and Gail's favorite people in the world.
Oh yeah, I mean she's definitely one of my favorite people in the world for sure.
We the two of us both love Amelia.
I love being at events with her, like seeing how many people love her, and I just warms my heart, and I love it so much.
I did a nighttime investigation with her. I was down there with Amelia, Dale Kazmarek, and Greg Koss.
Oh wow.
That's an all-star group. You get me teamed up with Amelia, Dale, and Greg. That's a TV show waiting to happen, but we're all getting a little old for it, except Amelia.
That's
Amelia's ageless. She looks like she still did 20 years ago. I think she's a vampire.
Yeah. And so she's on History Alive with me too. So speaking of shows, so yeah, you could follow us at History Alive too and see what we're up to. So yeah, that's Amelia did not stay at the rest home. Amelia did go back to the hotel.
She's the one that needed the UV light. You need to check out those sheets on the bed before you lay down on them with the UV light.
She did. Yeah, but she went back to the hotel, but there was more air conditioning, showers, there were great things there too. So, we both had our benefits and drawbacks. So usually we don't necessarily part for the evenings, because we're the girls in the group. So we'll stay together. But in this case, each one on our own way.
Are you going to be on TV anytime soon?
So yeah, our show History Alive is going to be on PARAFlixx coming up February 26th. It gets released.
That is really quick, 26th.
Well, it's very soon, in a week. Yeah, like I guess
it's in a week.
In a week. So time flies. I remember when I first heard February 26th, I was like, okay. But yeah, no, that is.
But here it is.
Week it comes out. Yeah.
And that's on PARAFlixx, and people can watch it there.
They can watch it there. Yeah.
Is that going to be a weekly show for a while or doing a season?
No, so for now it'll be the pilot. I'm excited to see how it all got kind of put together because we went to a couple different locations. So I don't know how much is in this episode, I must admit, and how much is going to be in more. So we'll see. Like I'll be right along with everybody, and I'll just be like cringing because when you watch yourself, it's so hard.
It's creepy. It's creepy, isn't it? Watching yourself.
Like it's so hard. Like I want to watch all my friends and see what they do because I love them all so much. And so I'm gonna be like, look at all of them. But then I'll say something or move my body, and I'll be like, who is that? Oh, So I don't know. I don't know if I could watch it. I like for real because it's a whole thing.
I have still never watched myself on 2020. Oh, excuse me, Snapped. I've been on 2020 and Snapped, and I haven't watched either one of the shows.
Yeah, no, it's hard. Even just like if I'm like 2 seconds on something, like by now I could hear my voice. I could do stuff. I could edit short videos and stuff, but like an actual somebody else edited it and it's on actual TV now. I'm like, ugh.
I did watch myself on when I was on the CNN headline news. Vengeance. I did watch that one, and I was on True Crime. I watched that one.
Okay.
But 2020 and Snapped, I did not watch that.
It's too hard.
Yeah,
Very
you ever
hard.
look up Marnie Yang sometime? Give you a homework assignment.
Okay.
I was the photographer who took a video and did a photo shoot with Marnie Yang about 6 months before she did the murder.
Oh.
Yes.
All right, I will have to research.
So they put me on to talk about it because we were in a real estate group together.
Interesting.
Talk about Creep City.
How interesting.
And my brother-in-law panicked. We had, because she came to the house to do the photo shoot. We had a murderer in the house. I said, yeah, we did.
That's kind of cool. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. We had a murderer in this house. Didn't make the TV, but a guy came up here to work on some plumbing for me, put it back together correctly. Nice guy. But his girlfriend came in and sat down in my chair in the living room because I didn't want to sit out front of the car for 2 or 3 hours. Brought her dog in, sat and watched TV while I was outside talking with the guy doing the plumbing.
Okay.
A couple of years after that, she stabbed the guy to death in somebody else's home. That's here local.
Well, what did he do? I mean, like, she was just trying to watch some TV, probably.
Well, she was a meth head.
Okay. Well,
so they were living in his employer's house, and they got in an argument. She stabbed him to death right there in the kitchen.
He wasn't.
So we've had a murderer in this house. Well,
that's pretty exciting.
I wish you luck with your show next week. What time is it going to be on PARAFlixx? You know the time?
I bet by 8 o'clock it's going to be on, because then it'll be streaming after that. So I think it's 8 o'clock. It gets released on the 26th.
Everybody check your schedules on PARAFlixx and check her out, Kara Phillip.
Thank you.
On TV week.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
PARAFlixx County TV. That's a TV channel, basically.
Yeah, you can, anywhere that you can stream everything else, you can get PARAFlixx.
And appreciate you being on the show. We'll have to get you on the show again sometime.
Absolutely.
And we can talk about how well the show went.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll work out until a semi full-time gig for you.
And I get to keep playing with my friends and, doing cool things and investigations together. That's what I hope, because we all just adore each other. So I hope we do more.
If you're in the same place with Amelia Cotter at the time, boy, that is too much beauty in one room.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, we love spending time together. It's our favorite. Truly.
Wow. You're both fantastic people. You're both sweethearts. It's both been fine talking to you. We'll do it again. She's been on the show a couple of times, by the way.
Yeah, yes. She's just the best. And yeah.
Yes, she is. A funny story about her when we did the Lincoln Park. She showed up late for the investigation. We'd already done the pre thing where we're setting everything up. We were just about to leave to go look at the couch tomb. You know where that is?
Yeah. And
she comes running up. Want to get on the tour? We had the author who just wrote a book about the couch tomb doing that tour, and brought him in for the whole tour thing. And she said, "But who put the outhouse down here, the porta potty?" I said, "I paid for that." She said, "Can I use?" I said, "Of course you can use." So the first thing she says to me in the investigation, "I got to pee."
I mean, because she had to get all the way there. I mean, that was completely appropriate and important.
Yes. and she had to do it before she walked all the way to the couch too.
Yeah. I mean,
we were at the clubhouse, that building kind of in the center of the park. That's where we set base camp at. Right there at the softball fields.
Yeah, no, so thank God there was a porta potty there.
Yes. And she had to walk all the way to the couch too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a little funny story with Amelia. She's fun to be around. I love her.
She is. I do. I truly, yes. Like she is one of my favorite people, and we're so excited to see each other in a few weeks.
Well, I got to have you back on the show again. You got some interesting stories.
Thank you.
We've both been to common places in the Chicago area. It's fun covering all that with you. Thank you for appearing.
Thank you for having me. Have a
You've been
wonderful
very
night.
fabulous. You're a fabulous person. You were advertised to me as a fabulous person, and you were true to form during the show. So thank you.
Thank you.
We will again. You will be invited. Open invitation.
Have a wonderful night. Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you got something you want to hawk, a new show coming out, a book you want to write, whatever, give me.
I leave the writing to Amelia. I do not like that's. I say, ugh. I am not an author. But I'll talk all day long.
I can't force myself to sit down and concentrate that long.
No, I just don't. That's what school is for. I'm always in school. So
yeah, and all those term papers you got to write kind of broke me out of sitting there at the computer doing research and typing.
Yeah, I just do it for school.
Yes.
Have a wonderful one. Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time, and you take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sleep well. Now, we'll be chatting if you want to hang around. Gwen and I'll be talking a little bit, but you need to go to bed anyway, so I'd say just go straight to bed.
Bye. Thank you.
Tell your husband I said good night.
I will.
So, good night for you. Goodbye. All right. We are going to sit there and play my closing, please, Gwen.